So a few people have asked over the years for me to do like an update on my collection overall, and I guess I can do that. Um, I have sold a lot of stuff over the last few years. Really, honestly, this just becomes a lot of clutter, and I was really just there was no more room. There was no room for all this stuff, and I had a lot of stuff that was taking up room that honestly I rarely ever played, if at all. And so I started getting rid of things, and I had to ask myself, what is the main things that I'm never going to get rid of? Stuff like the NES and the SNES and the Sega Master System, Sega Genesis. That stuff I'm never going to get rid of. That's the stuff that I'm actually nostalgic for. That's the stuff that I grew up with. There was a lot of stuff that I never grew up with. Things like, I had an Amiga 500, and that thing took up a lot of room. The box for the thing was like 4 feet wide, and it's got its proprietary CRT monitor and all the discs and accessories that I had for it. And I never, had any nostalgia for the Amiga 500. It's a cool computer, but it's not like I ever had one growing up. I never even knew anyone that had one growing up. I never played on one growing up. So that was, a prime example. That was one of the first things to go. The oddball stuff. So, like, I had an Atari Jaguar, with a bunch of games, and I had a Panasonic 3DO. I love the 3DO. I am nostalgic for the 3DO. I rented that thing several times back in the day, back in like 1993, 1994, pre-PlayStation. So yeah, I was nostalgic for the Panasonic 3DO, but honestly, I hardly ever played it. If I played it, it was for really just those two games, was Need for Speed and Road Rash. And I mean, both of those were ported to the PlayStation. So yeah, over the last 5 or 6 years, I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff. But that said, I still have a lot of stuff. Again, there's stuff I wasn't going to get rid of. The Atari 2600s, the NES, Super Nintendos, Super Famicoms, Genesis, Mega Drive, Master System. I still have a lot. I still have more than that. So we'll take a look at it. I'll probably miss some stuff just because there is so much. But I guess we'll start chronologically. I have several Atari 2600 systems. I still have the Vader. I have at least one Woody. I've got a heavy sixer. I don't know if I have a 4-switch Woody. Maybe I do. If I do, I'll show it here. I've got a Junior. I've got a 2600 Junior. And I owned one of those growing up too. So originally I had the 4-switch Woody was what my uncle had. In the mid-90s, about 1993 or 1994, I acquired a Atari 2600 Junior off a classmate for like $20. I've got several NES systems. I sold the top loader to a Nintendo collector who really wanted it. I had two Sega Master Systems, the big full like original model, and I sold one of them. So I still have one, but I also have the Sega Master System 2, and then I have a cartridge converter thing that lets you play Sega Master System games on the Sega Genesis. I've got a couple of Model 1 Sega Genesis systems. I've got a couple Model 2 Sega Genesis systems with the Sega CD. I got a Model 1 Sega CD. I've got a Model 2 Sega CD. I've got a couple of 32X systems. All this stuff works fine. One of the Model 1s is modified. It's got AV jacks and Japanese / English or American region select switch on the back. And then I've got the Model 3, like I said, and I've got a Mega Drive. I've got one Japanese Mega Drive. I had two Japanese Mega Drives, and I sold one of them. Oh, I got a PC Engine in the box. I've got a TurboGrafx 16 in the box. I did grow up with a TurboGrafx 16. I owned a TurboGrafx 16 during its run. Granted, at the end of its run, when it was in the clearance bin. Super Nintendo, I still have a couple of Super Nintendo systems. They both work perfectly fine. I have one of the Super Nintendo Juniors. Actually, I think I have two Super Nintendo Juniors, and I have one Super Famicom. And actually, exact same thing. I used to have two Japanese Super Famicoms, and I sold one of them. Forgot to mention I have a Famicom. I still have a boxed Famicom that I picked up a long time ago, 8-9 years ago. I've got a Sega Saturn. I've got a couple of PlayStations, I think. I've got at least one of the original PS1s and one of the little mini PS1s. And then I've got a couple of N64s. Both of them have the expansion pack in them. I've got a couple of GameCubes. One might be my wife's, so I might have like 3 GameCubes here. And then I've got the Wii. I still have the red Wii in the box. That one is modded. It can play games off USB sticks. It can play like emulators. PS2s, I've got several of the fat PS2s and several of the slim PS2s. PlayStation 3, I have the fat original PS3, which is still 100% original and 100% working. PS4, I have just a slim PS4, 500 gigabyte. I bought that when like the Uncharted 4 bundle came out. What else am I forgetting? Dreamcast. I've got a couple of Dreamcast systems that still work. A couple of Atari computers that still work. The Atari 600XL, I think it is. Yeah, I've got a couple Atari 600XL systems that work. Emulation systems. I've got the NES Classic, the SNES Classic, the PS1 Classic. All 3 of those are modded. I've got the C64 Mini, and honestly, all of those are pointless because this is a Raspberry Pi 3 inside of a case that looks like a little mini Sega Mega Drive. And this has got a 128 gigabyte micro SD card in it with like 5,500 games in it. I mean, like every Game Boy, Game Boy Color, NES, SNES, Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, Master System. It's got Neo Geo. It's got arcade. Even PS1. It does PS1 pretty well. So pretty much everything up to PS1. This thing does it all. And it kind of makes all the other ones pointless in a way. But, like I said about those in the video, about those NES Classic and SNES Classic, they're cool as collectibles. You could buy them just as a decoration on your shelf. And they look pretty cool. So yeah, I guess that's it for the systems, and then it's games. My games are a little bit better organized now. I've got a little more shelving, and the shelves are all like organized. So I have this one's all Nintendo, it's all NES and GameCube and Wii, and then this one's all PlayStation. So it's like PS1, PS2, PS3, and PS4. I don't know if there's some PSP in there, but yeah, it's at least all the main PlayStation 1 through 4. And then this one is all Sega. This one is awesome. It's double stacked, so there's quite a lot of boxed games in there, Genesis games. But it's all Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, 32X. I've got the loose Sega Genesis games in these cassette tape holder things. So yeah, there's a lot of games there, and it's all Sega, which is cool. I got in this cabinet here some spare like Dreamcast games, some boxed NES games, and then my Super Nintendo and N64 games are not on shelves. They're just in drawers somewhere. Yeah, so I guess that's it. I've gotten rid of a lot of stuff, but it's like I still have a lot of stuff. And it's stuff that I'm nostalgic about, and it's stuff that I will actually play. So yeah, I guess it's just been more focused. And Game Boy stuff I'm always going to be picking up. I'm going to be modding Game Boys till the day I die. Eventually I'm going to do one of those IPS screens in a Game Boy. IPS and a DMG. So yeah, anyways, I guess that's it. See you guys later.